joining us, Congressman Frank Pallone, Democrat representing New Jersey's 6th Congressional District. He's been in Congress since 1988, and by the way, won his last re-election with nearly 64% of the vote. You like to hear that, I'm sure, right?
Sounds good.
It sounds good. Every politician would want to win their election by 64% of the vote. How big is this tax cut proposal, and does it have a chance of passing?
I just don't think it's a realistic initiative, Bill. I mean, first of all, because he really isn't doing it on a bipartisan level. He hasn't really met with Democrats or made an effort to reach out to Democrats. And it's all, you know, it's mainly focused on trying to reduce corporate tax rates and help the wealthy and not the middle class. But beyond that, it's not paid for. As you suggested, it increases the deficit significantly. And that money probably, you know, should be spent instead on infrastructure needs, education needs, so many other needs that we have in terms of investing in the future.
He would say that we will get that money back. And the Republicans say that across the aisle from you. They will get the money back because these tax cuts will spur growth in the economy.
But that's the whole trickle-down economic theory that we know really doesn't work. It never has worked. I really wish the president would focus more on infrastructure, because I think that's an area where we could have a bipartisanship and actually achieve it. He talked about during the campaign about $1 trillion infrastructure initiative that would help rebuild our roads, our mass transit, our schools, broadband, for example.
And in fact, he said right when he got elected, he's going to try to do that first, and it didn't go.
No, and that's something that could be done on a bipartisan basis, I think. I mean, the other problem, of course, which makes this tax proposal unrealistic is the fact that you can't deduct your state and local property taxes, which I think really means is dead on arrival, because, you know, you're going to lose the support of all major states, Democrats and Republicans, who won't want to see that happen.
It seems to me, affects middle-class people more than it does the uber-wealthy.
Absolutely. And you're talking about New Jersey, New York, California, so many other states that would be negatively impacted. So whatever benefit the average person would get would be wiped out by the fact that they couldn't deduct their state and local property tax.
But right now, lobbyists are flooding your town again like never before, arguing for their own position in this tax reform question. The real estate lobby, the banking lobby, everything else. They don't want these deductions to go away either. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure on all of you congresspeople.
Absolutely. But I think the main thing I want to stress, Bill, is that President Trump still is not reaching out to Democrats on these initiatives. You know, the same thing happened with the Affordable Care Act. Obamacare, right? He just wanted to repeal it. He didn't really have a realistic proposal to replace it. Instead of just working with Democrats to try to improve the Affordable Care Act and, you know, make it better, more affordable, more people coverage, better coverage, he just went on this, you know, repeal effort, and that failed. And
several times.
Several times now. And he just doesn't reach out to the Democrats. I mean, I think you could have, you know, some kind of tax reform that was meaningful, but it's not going to happen with this, the way he operates.
From the outside, as an outsider, I think most of us would say, well, you know, we thought the gridlock might end. We would try to end something. He talked about ending the gridlock. Is it as bad as it was? And what are you doing all the time there if these bills are being, you know, stopped?
I don't want to give you the impression that we're not doing things. I mean, obviously, he worked with us and worked with the Democrats on a short-term spending bill, on increasing the debt ceiling, and I think we ultimately will get a bipartisan spending bill sometime.
And the government won't shut down.
And I don't think the government shuts down. So it's not that we're not working together. There's so many other things I could talk about that we are working together. Right now, we're doing a children's health initiative, reauthorization, community health centers. But on the large issues that he has talked about, which are infrastructure, tax reform, you know, he is just not doing enough to come up with what I would say realistic proposals that can pass and be bipartisan. And they have to be bipartisan, Bill, otherwise they're never going to pass.
Let me talk about your perspective on how the president has handled the hurricanes. And especially we're dealing with San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the rest of Puerto Rico right now. Devastation. How has he handled it? He's got a lot of criticism. He thinks the administration is doing very well. Regardless of your politics, it's an enormous task that is ahead of everyone about Puerto Rico.
Well, I mean, the biggest disappointment has been the way he handled Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I mean, these are part of the United States. Their territories are part of the United States. Now, I don't know if he just didn't realize the level of devastation initially, or what, but I mean the bottom line is that the response has been too little, too late. Obviously, you need to get the military involved. You need to have one of the things that worried me was that the hospital ship, didn't leave port until I think a couple of days ago.
Right.
Because it is an island, and he's pointed that out, because it is an island, you can't just, expect that everything is going to go there, from other parts of the country. You need the military. I think it was a mistake not to get the military involved in a major way from the beginning, and it still needs to be involved even more so.
This last week, the House, of which you're a member, approved a series of tax breaks for victims of the hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria, while denying the same benefits, as you know well, to victims of Superstorm Sandy. The bill passed. 155. Most of the Democrats voted against it, including the delegation from New Jersey. How did you vote on it?
Well, I voted with the rest of the delegation against it because it's not fair, obviously.
Because Republicans didn't vote for aid to Sandy victims, and so you're not going to vote for
Well, these tax benefits could still be beneficial even now. So it's not just that we're, taking revenge or something over the past.
But that's what it appears like.
I understand that, but I mean, the problem is that we continue to have problems. Sandy is still affecting my constituents. I could take it today down to the Bayshore that I represent, in the towns where you still have a lot of homes and businesses that haven't recovered. But regardless of that, I think what I want to stress is that, unfortunately, we did not use the lessons of Sandy in terms of what we did at the federal level. One of the biggest issues in that regard is flood insurance. We needed to reform the flood insurance system because a lot of my constituents after Sandy did not get what they were supposed to in terms of their flood insurance, which is a national program.
Right. And a national problem.
Made some suggestions that this needs to be reauthorized to learn the lessons of Sandy so that it can be handled properly and people get their money quickly, and that hasn't happened. So, I'm just hoping that unfortunately, as more and more of these disasters occur and they get worse, that we learn some of the lessons and try to reform the way we react to natural disasters, the way we finance the flood insurance programs. There are a lot of things that can be changed that really would be more meaningful.
Finally, and I don't know if it's a question you get asked very often, but you got about 3 months left of Governor Christie's tenure, of his 8 years as governor. Is the state going to miss him at all? And what do you think his legacy is going to be like? And number 2 and 3, what does he do in the future? Is he going to ever be a force in New Jersey politics again?
I just think that that Governor Christie had the potential to be a good governor, but he just squandered it because he decided to run for president, and everything became personal in his effort to try to be president. And as a result, the state suffered economically and in so many other ways. And New Jersey was always sort of out front and sort of a trailblazer on so many issues, whether it was fair housing or it was the environment, education systems. And I think that once he's gone, the new governor, who I expect to be Phil Murphy, our Democrat
candidate, see about that, yes,
will make a difference. And because I just know that from what he does and what his background is, that he'll bring back that innovation.
Congressman Frank Pallone, always a pleasure. Thank you.